Bags of sago, flour and rice, black tea, sugar, treacle so nice. Green peas, yellow peas, soaked overnight, all gathered together in a big old sugar bag. I remember going down the ration shed, my two brothers.
Many tribes, one community.
Hello everybody, this is Dean Saffron in the Ration Shed Museum with new stories of the Ration Shed. When you come to the Ration Shed Museum, you will have the opportunity to experience how life was and is in our dynamic Aboriginal community, Cherbourg. New stories from the community are also important, as we are many tribes, one community, that continue to thrive and are proud, very proud First Nation people. One of our great guests, and I've been excited about this all week actually, is Mayor Bruce Simpson. And that's because he's got stories pre-being a mayor that's inspirational and I think will really be enchanting for all people. Hello, Bruce.
Hello and thank you.
You grew up in Cherbourg. Can you tell me a little bit about the start of your life and what living in Cherbourg was like?
Yes, I grew up in Cherbourg. I was fortunate to be a 1967 referendum baby. So I know that that's intentional too, that I was going to be some type of leader in some respect. Cherbourg, when I was growing up, was community. It was family. Our family of 9 siblings I'm from was 69 siblings, because we were from a big family of kinship, carers, of aunties, uncles, and their cousins. And even to this day, I still don't know all my cousins, but how big my families are on both mum and dad's side. And community, for me growing up, you felt safe. You had that extended family, like I just mentioned, and you had a lot of cultural activities to do. So we never had, a lot of toys or a lot of Western way of, enjoying our activities. We had the bush, we had the creek, we had the hunting, and us boys, we used to go with Dad all the time, or any of his brothers, would take us duck hunting and shooting stuff, and and so our school and our learning environment was the bush. And yes, and so we knew that we had the bush as a way of provision, because sometimes and I only found out recently, Mum and Dad would go without food because we didn't have a lot of, monetary value to go and buy the stuff. And I don't really know about the rations, but it was a cycle of, I think, a fortnightly or weekly time when Mum and Dad would go and get the rations. But because of our big extended families, there wasn't enough to feed us all, so we had to go hunting and fishing.
But I think that's really incredible because that's a theme that I heard from Auntie Shirley as well.
Yes.
And Uncle Eric, that essentially it might have been a hard time, but you all band together to go out and do the hunting, do the gathering. So in a way, this system of putting you on a reserve allowed you to really live a bit of culture sort of under the radar. So your childhood was quite exciting by the sounds.
It was, and I think it's credit to our parents. They protected us from we didn't really know about the boys and girls dormitory, even though we lived on Cherbourg. But Mum and Dad, kept it safe, I guess, for us to grow up in a normal, setting of what community life is. Whatever you describe as normal, as a family unit, I guess. And we had a lot of friends that would come and play at our house. Even Sunday afternoons, even Saturdays, we'd go for walks up to the bush, and there'd be like, nearly 60, 70 kids walking around with mum and dad and looking for gum and, just watching other little animals run here and there, and then stopping at a creek and having a swim. So, so we never really, even being born in 1967, I never seen, the hard times that our elders speak of, and the hard times that my parents experienced. So, and mum and dad too, they were teenage parents. So they did really well, to connect to their role models and their aunties and uncles, to safeguard us in terms of protecting us and making sure that, we would have a culturally, safe environment, but also a supportive family network. And I think mum too, being connected to the church, that was another layer of, I guess, security, and another layer of community and being connected to community. And so we'd see a lot of our aunties, uncles, and cousins there too, in Sunday school, in the youth programs, and in the night services that they'd have, and also the in-home service cottage meetings that they used to have, where you go and take, I guess, the church meeting to the house. And then food was always the connecting, thread to, feeling a part of community. And it was funny, I asked Mum the other day, Mum, when you were growing up, I said, what was suicide? Because I had to ask the question because a couple of suicides happened recently that I know of. She said, we never even had that. We didn't even know that.
Really?
Yes. And so for me, being in that gap of the hard times and now to being innovative and entrepreneurial as mayor and, bringing more business to our community and economic development, I'm like, wow, what a big gap of, feeling safe and security in culture here to now, having suicide as a common theme and a common way of life. And it's just not even in our Aboriginal communities anymore. It's mainstream too, like suicide is just prevalent. It just happens, if you're socially isolated or not inclusive of people. Yeah. And I think that was the difference. We were included, we weren't socially isolated, even though the policies at the time tried to make that happen and, dismantle our family networks and then, take our families away and put them in another country, and divide us. There was still some type of strength in that you had family, as the common thread of that you're okay, you're going to be okay.
Well, it's interesting. I said to Auntie today, so I'll just bring that as a reference, that they tried to repress us by throwing everybody away from their places and their country and their nation. But what it actually did was everyone banding together and marrying into tribes they never would have,
yes,
making their new nation.
Yes.
And I think it's incredible that you just said something I have to ask about the fact that you didn't know about the dorms. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we seen the dormitories, but we didn't know what the dormitory significance was.
Gotcha.
Because our church families were in the dormitories as well.
Yes.
But we didn't know that it was a policy, to disperse, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I keep saying to our elders now, to my mother and Uncle Eric, wow, we still got a long way to learn, like our generation, to teach, the younger generations after us.
But I think that's what's really remarkable about you, is you've always been big, from what everyone says about you, into elders, knowledge,
Yes.
our ancestors. And you just telling me it's even more remarkable because you were in this time where really you didn't have, you had hardships, of course you did, but you didn't have what your parents had, and you didn't have the freedom that the youth have now. And it's
Yes.
like three massive gaps,
Yes.
right? So how do you draw your information and reference point on life from the elders? Was it all from the people that you watched, or also talking to ancestors? Well, just tell me a little bit more about that.
Our parents, mother, dad and mum, they their role modeling was just amazing. We didn't know harm. We did not understand the terminology of harm,
Wow.
neglect,
Oh my God.
abuse. We only knew success,
Yes.
to achieve, be the best that we can be. And I think it was through mum and dad's role modeling. So dad worked for 54 years. 54 years in our community. And he hardly had a day off. If he did have a day off, it was because he was sick. And they were both served on council at different times, the Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council.
Really?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 terms each.
Oh my God.
So we come from, and they weren't taught that. They weren't taught how to understand governance. They weren't taught how to be a leader.
Yes.
They were, I think they looked at other aunties and uncles, and thought, oh, well, and mum was only saying the other day, like we talk about financial literacy on community, the translation is different to mainstream, because some mainstream families have 4 or 5 generations of generational wealth and knowledge, how to understand financial literacy. And so I said, Mother, how did you do it without being taught from anyone? She said, no, I knew that I wanted you to go to the Megan show, so I had to save. I knew that I needed to put food on the table, so I had to save. So mum taught herself how to save. And to this day, she still saves. Like, she has a very strong financial literacy in making sure that bills are paid, there's petrol in their car. You know what I mean? Like, and the day-to-day stuff is met, but then she has savings as well. Like, you don't get taught.
No.
She wasn't taught that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you can't say it's like genetic memory, which I believe a lot of our behaviors come from our ancestors. This is simply applied vision from what she
Yes.
realized other people did and passed it on to you. And I think it's imperative that the reason we suffer so much now is we were never taught those kind of things. So are you trying to do that in community now?
Look, in my skill set, I believe that we need to grow our business acumen for our community, but also bring the two worlds. We need to learn from mainstream and get all that technical knowledge and then translate it to our way of doing things.
Yes.
And I think I do that really well as the mayor.
You do.
Like you said, I brought the Elders Advisory Council to the table.
Kudos.
We've got the Youth Advisory Group, as well as another platform. And then it all feeds into, having that strength of leadership and making sure that we do bring the modern Western way of doing things into our cultural way of doing things.
But it's coming from your elders.
That's right.
And that's why you keep using them as a reference.
Always, yes. And I believe we don't use our elders enough because the wisdom that they have, the untapped wisdom, is just phenomenal. I think, there should be a thesis around someone, researching our elders and just what untapped stuff. Because, you look at all the different policies they've had inflicted on them and imposed on them, and then all the reshuffling and rejuggling that they had to do, like one country, and then still be smiling still be respectful, still be, functional.
And have class.
And have class about it, yes. So that in itself, like you can't be taught that. That's in you because of what was given.
Yes.
The lack of, and they've built their own.
It's truly remarkable. I met your mum, and
Yes.
I want to spend more time with her. We're going to have to do dinner or coffee or
Yes,
something. Bring some
and
cake.
and saying with mum too, I think our journey, and I could speak for the 9 of our, the 8 of my other brothers and sisters, we had to share mum to the community,
Yes.
because mum is a mother, a grandmother, to all of our community,
And a
we love
wisdom
that,
owner.
and the wisdom too. Yes, the wisdom owner.
So I've got a question, and that is, Bruce, you were exceptionally passionate
Oh.
about playing the piano.
Yes, so when I was in year 6, 7, mother and father bought a organ, like
Oh, wow.
a pretty big organ too, and put it in the house. And then out of the 9 of us, I was the only one interested. I was like, oh, I'll see if I can. So I used to play around, muck around. But then we also went to Sunday school and to youth group, to church services. And I was like listening to some of the songs, and the chords of the uncles playing the guitars and the aunties singing there. And I was like, oh. So then I went, after each Sunday school and church service, I'd take what was still in my head back to the organ and just jump on the organ. I just found the keys and the notes and started playing. And I was like, I asked my grandmother to buy me headphones, because I didn't want anyone to know that I could play. So I put the headphones in, and then I used to just play. And then I just kept learning and learning. Then I learned augmented chords, diminished chords. I learned the scale. I learned some jazz chords. And then mum and dad said, oh, Bruce, we should put you in theory classes in Mergen. I think there was about 3 or 4 other young people studying theory too. And so I'd go to these little organ classes while the other fellows would be going to football and, and netball and whatever.
Playing cricket.
I loved it. And then, but the teacher, she said, Bruce, stop right there now. And I was like, oh, she's found me out. She said, you're not even reading the music in front of you now, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not. So she said, go back to the start and read.
Yeah.
Because I knew, and I could hear it in my head, which chord I could progress to get there, But I was putting other stuff that wasn't written on there in my style of play. Yes, I know. And then I was like, oh, she caught me out, and it wasn't a bad thing. She goes, no, if you want to be, an acquired musician, you need to go and read it. And I did. I did learn how to read music. But then over time, I lost that theory way of reading because I had no one there to push me maybe in high school, I got to grade 9 or 10, and the elective for music wasn't an elective. They said, Bruce, you're going to do geography, or I think science, something like that. I was like, wow, okay, I got to do geography.
Hold on, let me get this right.
Because mum and dad couldn't afford to send me to a boarding school to continue the music theory that I want, because I actually wanted to be a musician, what you call classical pianist. That was
Because
my
you
dream.
wanted to go to the conservatorium,
Yes,
but you weren't allowed.
I wasn't allowed because the theory fell off.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to go to the boarding school to continue my theory lessons, to get to, to do the music lessons, and then to pass to get into the but no, there was no pathways back then, no money back then and funding to support that.
There was no real opportunity because there was no pathways for mob to be able to thrive in the artistic merit at that time under superintendents over here. What do you think about it now when you can have those pathways? What would you say to children?
To children and young people, take every opportunity. If it's artistic, sporting, academic, please grab those opportunities. There are so many opportunities now, and universities are making those pathways happen too, in partnership with the government. So it's great that we've got more pathways and opportunities that are accessible to our people on country,
Well,
and especially our young people.
you actually have the chance to get a doctorate. Tell me about that.
Correct. Melbourne University, the business school, has approached me to look at doing a thesis on my own leadership model. And what I like about this pathway, they made it really culturally safe in that, me as a mature age student, heading towards the hill, that you can still study and research and, be an academic and contribute to the research world that benefits our younger people and benefits, our little academics that are coming through.
And that's what we need.
Which is great.
Little 17-year-old Brucey is at, 25 now, definitely.
I know.
Doing this. It not only is it challenging, it must be a bit scary.
Oh, it's very scary. Like, they talk about impostor syndromes.
Well,
That's me. That's how I'm feeling right now. Because, like, the academia world and universities, that was built on generations of, Western society.
Yes.
And that's a foreign place for all of us. Even if you're a mature age student too. I remember going to the Sydney University. I did a graduate diploma in health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at the Sydney University. And when I saw those gates of the Sydney University, I was like, what am I doing here? Bruce, you're dumb. You're just too dumb to be here. That's what I was. That just came over me. And no one pushed me to that narrative of being dumb. It was my own little thoughts of seeing this big, and then seeing all these statues, walking through the university. And then when I walked through, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a little town in here. Hey, from one end to the other end of Sydney University, I was like, and then I was like, no. And I had to reframe my thinking. I had to reframe my passion. I was like, Bruce, you're a leader. Come on, you can do this. Get up. Get out of my way, little imposter syndrome, whoever you are. I was like, get out of my way, because I'm going to do this. And, there was 25 of us from around the country, and I was the top 2.
Oh, wow.
There was only 4 of us that graduated.
Oh, congratulations.
I was top 2. And one of my lecturers, we had 4 lecturers, she came up to me and she said, Bruce, do you know, we could see that you were determined, to write the academic way and to understand the Western way of referencing and everything. And you were just ahead of the game. And, how you articulated things and interpreted the Western, academic research stuff that was there to our way of how it translated on community. So I wrote, we had to pick a health, what they call it, a health burden of disease within your community. And out of the 25, only 2 of us I picked a structural burden of disease. Yes, I titled my paper Healthy Partnerships, because I knew we had a hospital, a primary healthcare service, and the allied health services, plus all these organizations as well. And we're to pitch the research and the grad diploma to a proper health promotion team that had a bell. You had to pitch 10 minutes and 5 minutes to wrap up to say that you were pitching this model for state or federal funding. And I pitched it and got top marks. I was like, yes. So, you know what I mean? I proved that healthy relationships, and healthy partnerships, between services are key to, closing the gap and to making, reducing death, reducing, child disease and all that comes with chronic disease. So I've got the, and I came back and I wrote it, but then I implemented it because I was CEO at the time too of the Baramba Medical Service at the time down there, now Craig's. Yeah. Yep. And I said, come on. I said to the Don up here and the manager and myself, let's have monthly meetings. Let's send all the doctors to the breakfast yarns where they can talk all their doctor stuff. Let's get all the health workers together. And we rotated for a month, and it went for like 6 to 12 months, and it was just perfect. There was no state fundings over there, federal fundings over here, or the community organizations. It was we're just all together.
But
that model, they still talk about that model.
Really?
Yes. But it's fragmented again.
But you can change that. But listening to you,
And that model could expand to other places and to other organizations too. Because it's about that, strength, that strong governance. And just opening the doors together, the right doors together, and leaving them open. Don't close them.
listening to you, like you had the imposter syndrome, but the reality is this incredible knowledge is already in you. You just needed a door to open, which seems to be a recurring theme through everything you were saying.
Yes.
What
got
do you say?
2 words: be brave. And even to the young people, be brave. Step out and have a go. Do it, because you will get the support. Don't doubt what skill or what knowledge you have. Just be brave, and because your passion will actually bring the right people to you, because that, what do they say, when you have the right people around you, you just attract that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, as a young person, my 17-year-old self, looking back, I wish I would have been braver just to step out and do it.
Wow. That is the most profound thing anyone's actually said to me. It's about being brave.
Be brave.
And that's across the board. Doesn't matter whether you're
Yes.
black, pink,
Nope.
orange, or green.
Nope.
Being brave. Bruce, how do you get strength, belief in yourself, pride, get rid of the imposter, and actually know that something is possible?
I always draw on my ancestors, and of course the God that our mother, showed us, and our community. I had a lot of setbacks in my life, a lot, but I said to myself, "Come on, Bruce," and I said, "Whatever was in my way, get out of my way.
Well,
Get out of my way.
Get out of my
Get
way.
out of my way." And I still say that to this day. Get out of my way. If there's a roadblock or a stumbling block or, some thing in my way, I'll go, "No, get out of my way." And I don't take on energy or things out of my control that I can't control. The only thing Bruce Simpson worries about is what I can control.
Could you give an example? Because I think the kids listening to this would love to know, and it could be a simple situation.
Lead, don't follow. I've never been a follower. So in my classes, in my youth groups, in my, friends, I don't follow. I lead. I've never followed.
That's what is you. Like, the reality is, listening to the fact that the university just offered you something, that's a leader that chases that, and that's in every person.
That's in every person. So find the leadership in yourself. Find the true leader that you are. You are a leader, you young people. You can lead our communities. You can sit in this mayor chair one day. You can be on council one day. You can be a teacher in our primary school. You can be a policeman in our community. You can be the CEO of all these organizations. You can be the director of nursing up at the hospital here. You can actually be the pilot that flies these helicopters into our community. Find the leader in yourself, and don't worry about what people say. Don't think or second guess that you're an imposter. No, you were born to be a leader. We were all born to be leaders. You need to find your leadership pathway. I did. So if you want to be a cleaner, be a cleaner. If you want to look after our horses in community, look after them. And if you want to be on the gang of fixing up our houses and our maintenance, we need community.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a fantastic day, and stay tuned for another episode of the Ration Shed Museum's News Stories. And remember, like Uncle says, we are
Many tribes, one community.